This is Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast where we bring Jesus into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sports Spectrum. So good to have you joining us here on the show today. I am Jason Romano. You can reach me directly with my email address, jason@sportspectrum.com, jason@sportspectrum.com. And we are presented today by IJM, the International Justice Mission, helping to protect more than 150 million people from violence and oppression around the world. You can become a freedom partner and join the fight to end slavery right now by going to the website ijm.org/TF, ijm.org/TF to become a freedom partner today. Very excited to welcome to Sports Spectrum today, Ashton Washington. She is the Director of High School Relations for the University of Illinois football team, the Illini football program, under head coach Lovie Smith. And Ashton is a pioneer. She's the first ever female staff member in the history of the Illini football program. And when I heard about her story and how she is really paving the way for females and, for African Americans too, in an opportunity to work in football with the University of Illinois, I said, let's get Ashton on. Let's hear about her journey. This is a woman who has trusted in God, been patient, and seen opportunities open up fairly quickly after graduating college in May of 2019. And even go back a year before that when she was baptized in 2018. And God's been doing a pretty cool work in her life. And now, with the Big Ten announcing that football is back, Big Ten football is back, it's a pretty cool time to talk to Ashton Washington, the first ever female staff member in the history of the Illini football program. She joins us here today on Sports Spectrum. Take a listen. Ashton Washington, welcome to Sports Spectrum.
What's up, Jason? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. It's a good day.
It is a good day. We got Big Ten football back.
Day.
And we got Big Ten football back, and it's going to be fun to watch. And I'm excited to get college football and certainly in the Big Ten back. But let's focus on you. Let's focus about you, your journey, learn a little bit about you, and maybe tell us about what life was like. You grew up in Houston, I know, and maybe share what life was like as a child and certainly, what eventually led you into this sports world.
Well, I'll have to go ahead and blame Dad and my brother. So younger brother, football is, that's just kind of what breeds down in Texas. So with him and my dad, just football. So I think growing up around it, I always tell people, they laugh at me, but I say I hated football at first. Because I would have to be at every practice, every game, everything, because my dad coached my brother. And so I said, it's crazy, and I'm going to bring God into this. It's crazy how, God has your life already planned for you, and you don't even know. Because now I'm on sidelines. Now I'm at every football practice, and I love what I do. So it's crazy how I came in full circle.
Mm-hmm. I'm imagining the movie Remember the Titans. I'm sure you've seen it. And the little girl that was hanging around with the coach. Was that kind of you? Was that who you were as a kid?
I was not. I was the other coach's daughter. I was Coach Boone's daughter.
Okay.
The one that was like the dolls and the nails. That was me. And so now I'm flip roles.
I know. I love it. So where does football become something that you're interested in, or just sports in general? You're around it with your dad and your brother, but eventually this takes you all the way to where you are now with Illinois. What was that process like?
I think most importantly, just seeing the recruitment process from Steven Sims. So he's currently with the Washington football team in the NFL. We graduated together from high school. Just seeing him as I guess you can say, an underrated kid, no stars, coming out of high school, one offer, and just kind of seeing his journey and kind of having a little helping hand during that time. I think that made me be like, wow, I love whatever I'm doing with him right now. You know what I mean? I couldn't figure out what it was named, but now I know it's called recruiting and helping in the recruiting process. But at that moment, I'm like, I love what I'm doing. And then I think, it kind of just opened up my mindset of football is where I want to be. Whether somebody paid me $5 a day or $0, this is something I would love to be around.
That's cool too. I love hearing that because I talk to a lot of young people and they'll say, hey, I want to get into this business or go into this direction. How do I get there? Tell me your story. And when I talk to them, I always say, listen, the very first job I ever had was for free. I mean, you could call it an internship, but I had
Yes.
already graduated. But I just wanted to be in the business of broadcasting and radio so bad that I was willing to do it for free for as long as it took to get my foot in the door, to get that experience, to meet people. And I would work 3 or 4 other jobs if I needed to, part-time, to make ends meet. And I did that. That's what I did early in my journey. So I love hearing that with you. It sounds like that passion is what drove you, that you were willing to do this for free if that's what it took.
So Jason, I love how you brought that up. During college, so I actually graduated last year, May 2019. But during college, I was working at a sandwich shop. I was taking out trash. I was mopping floors, cleaning tables, making turkey sandwiches. But I was working, I guess you could say, my full-time gig, but it was free. And that was the director of operations for the Old Coach, which was a media outlet in the state of Texas. So that was all free. And no one knew it was free. But I was doing it, making $7.25 an hour, making it happen.
Right. You just do what you got to do to get that experience and get that opportunity. And I love that, especially knowing how young you are in the future, the very bright future that you have. Ashton Washington is our guest here today on Sports Spectrum. Let's intersect the conversation with faith. Your faith's important to you. Where does your faith journey start and where does it take shape?
Well, faith journey for me, it's always been around it, family. But me personally was August 2018. I got baptized. I went all the way home, literally home to the state of Mississippi, and I got baptized in the same church as my mom did. And it just felt right. So my parents always preach, God is in our house, but we also want you to personally feel God. So I felt God in August 2018, and I was like, I called my granny. I said, I'm ready to get baptized now.
Take me through why that was the moment for you to get baptized. Like why? Because that's only a couple of years ago. So you're not, the 9 or 10-year-old. Like my daughter was, I think, 9 when she got baptized. And
I think that was my mom as well.
yeah, and I don't have any issues with young people. I still think there is an evolution and a process that you grow into your faith as you get a little bit older. It's not just your parents' faith anymore. So you get to this point just a couple of years ago where you make that decision. Tell us about that.
I think I just felt something. It's like you hear, you feel, and I'm all about like energies and auras. And something within me was like, it's time. You know what I mean? I can't put it into words, but I just knew at that moment, I was like, I got to pick up the phone. And it was kind of funny to me because as soon as I called my granny, she's like, okay, I'll call you back in 5 seconds. Literally called me back in 5 seconds and was like, the pastor's ready. You just let us know when you're here. I was like, wow, let's
Love
go.
that.
The power of God. And at that moment, I was like, it's meant to be.
So cool. So what changed after? What changed? You get baptized. Obviously, a lot of opportunities and doors have opened. And the fact that you're working with Illinois and Coach Lovie Smith is an awesome story, which I want to get to in a second. But what changed for you personally? Because the feeling to go get baptized is one thing, but now it's like this renewal takes place. You get baptized and you're a new creation, Ashton. So what takes place after that for you?
What took place for me, as soon as I came up, again, I felt differently. I stood up, spoke to the whole congregation, told them, my thoughts after the process, told them, kind of same thing I told, here, kind of what I felt in the beginning before. And I've noticed a lot of different things. I think this might be a personal effect, but I've become more patient in my own process. Of course, you get frustrated, but it's easier now for me to sit back and just be like, okay, Ashton, stay focused, stay consistent, take a deep breath. Everything's going to be okay. You know what I mean? All these steps are leading up to something. And from that moment in 2018, all those steps were leading up to where I am now. And it kind of goes back to my ultimate goal was I knew or I wanted to work in a Power 5 program. And all I can say is thank you to God for that.
Yeah, what you mentioned in terms of being more patient. I mean, in Galatians, I think it's Galatians 5, it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. And a lot of us have heard that who've been in faith journeys for a long time. I mean, little kids in youth groups are being taught to sing the song of the fruit of the Spirit, but it's love and joy, peace, patience, gentleness, self-control, all of those. And you just mentioned patience. And I believe when we turn ourselves over to the Lord, something changes within us and we demonstrate God's Spirit within us as that fruit. That's proof almost that we are Christians and living as a follower of Christ. So I love that you said patience, and I think that's really great. You have been patient, not only certainly in this interview and setting this conversation up, but in this process. But I will say, being patient, this happens pretty quick. Like, you graduated a year ago, and here you are, the director of high school relations now with Illinois. Tell me about the process of this opportunity coming. And I know right before that, you actually were working with the XFL, with the Houston Roughnecks. So a couple pretty cool opportunities beforehand lead you to this potential job working with Illinois. How did it come about?
So I'll start with the XFL Houston Roughnecks.
Yeah.
So with them, no one knows this, but I'm gonna say it because I'm with you.
Okay.
I actually started as a street marketing, I guess you could say a street marketing person. So this means I'm like the bottom of the totem pole. Again, working 20 hours a week, making $11 an hour. I'm going to different malls and different events across Houston, and I'm handing out flyers. And I'm kind of like a salesperson where you hear a million no's. I don't want your flyer. I don't want to talk to you. Please leave me alone. Don't want to buy your tickets. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I started from. So in the matter of 4 months, I got promoted twice and ended up with the business and game day operations. And again, patience, taking a chance, and knowing where I wanted to be, or that ultimate goal, and not turning down $11 an hour or thinking I'm too good for it. And then from there, I would say for Illinois would be, connections wise. So the coach that was in my position before me, Coach Joe Price, he's now director of player personnel for UTSA down in Texas. And I met him through when I was covering high schools in Texas. So when I was doing director of operations for the old coach, the media outlet, I would go to North Shore High School where he was coaching at and scout guys, write articles, different things like that. And so, just built up just a genuine relationship, kept up with him, never knew he was going to end up at Illinois. He ends up at Illinois a couple years later, still keeping that relationship going, still, saying Happy Father's Day. How's the wife? How's the kids? Little things like that, just little things. He ended up, like I said, getting to Illinois, introduces me to my director of recruiting now. So Patrick Embleton introduces me to him. And again, it was never on like, hey, she needs a job, or for me, hey, I need a job, I need help. Again, just genuine relationships, keeping it going. And who would have thought me and Pat, that's what I call him, would be working together. He's literally my right-hand man. But here we are. It was all about offering those genuine relationships.
Isn't that the key? I mean, I tell a lot of people, not just young people, but people in general, like they'll ask me, how did you get your job at ESPN? And honestly, I had zero relationships in that job. And that was a very sort of, I don't want to call it stroke of luck, but God's plan, I guess, to have it happen the way it did. But once I got in there, I had to build relationships to have any opportunities to not only move up or to try something different, but then eventually to leave ESPN into what I'm doing now. So talk about that importance of relationships and not necessarily asking for anything, just building relationships and being there to serve others.
That's key. I get a lot of emails and a lot of tweets and different things like that about, how do I get to where you are? How do I do this? And the main thing you just kind of come to account is, one, I can literally give a checklist to someone of everything I've done, and they can check by checkbox, but their journey or their situation that they're in won't end up or be the same as me. And that's the beauty of it. I think that's the absolute beauty of it. And that's when how you said, it's all God's plan. And it's all about how hard you work and how much you are willing, to make genuine relationships. I don't like the word network or networking. That's just me personally. I don't like that word.
Yeah.
I feel like, network or networking is strictly like a business term. Like, I'm only here to get something out of you. I'm only here to meet you for a certain reason. And I don't think it should be that way.
Today's show is sponsored by IJM, the International Justice Mission. And right now, violence is a threat to people around the world who are poor, especially during COVID-19. It's as much a part of daily life as hunger, disease, or homelessness, and it's often overlooked, but not by IJM. They believe every person deserves to be safe and free from violence, and by partnering with local authorities to rescue victims of violence, bring criminals to justice, restore survivors, and strengthen justice systems, IJM is helping to protect more than 150 million people from violence across the world. But it's work that they cannot do alone. They need your help. They need our help. The help of Freedom Partners, some of IJM's most loyal partners in the work of justice. These Freedom Partners allow you and I to partner with IJM in support of $24 or more each month, helping survivors of slavery and violence from the moment they're rescued till they're fully restored. If you want to join the fight to end slavery in our lifetime, you can visit the website right now, ijm.org/TF, ijm.org/TF, and become a Freedom Partner today. Ashton Washington is our guest here on Sports Spectrum today. So tell me about that first time you meet Coach Lovie Smith. Obviously a legend. He's been in the NFL for years, and now he's been at Illinois for a few years. And just from everything I know, I've never met him, but from everything I know and from the different people that ride in the circles I've ridden in that know him, not a bad word ever comes out of anybody's mouth about Coach Lovie Smith. It's all good, all positive, and we know his faith's important to him too. Tell me about Coach Smith and what that was like, kind of meeting him for the first time.
Well, met him. I guess we'll do twice. So met him on Zoom for the first time, and then met him in person. So on Zoom, it was the first time I ever spoke to him. Yeah. And I got an email, and it was random. It was like, you got a meeting with Lovie Smith at 2:00 p.m. Central Time. And me, I'm like, wait, this is before I knew there was an opportunity on the board.
Yeah.
Like, a Zoom meeting with Coach Smith? You know what I mean? Like, just being a football fan and just being a football in general, you're just like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Get to the meeting. I came in dressed the part. I wore an orange jacket, like an orange blazer.
That a girl.
And, he said, oh, you got the colors on. But he just came off so warm, warm spirit, so nice, so down to earth. And that was just through Zoom. You know what I mean? Usually when you meet somebody, if there was no COVID-19, it's a nice firm handshake, eye contact. But that's kind of where we started. And the first thing he said was, this didn't happen for a reason. This phone call, this was all God. And at that moment inside of me, in my head, I didn't say it out loud to him, keep him on edge. I was like, this is meant to be. This is where I'm supposed to be. And at that moment, I was like, I'm gonna say yes to Illinois. I'm definitely gonna say yes.
Even before they offered it to you.
Yeah, keep them on edge if they offer it to me. But just off those words alone at the very beginning, I was like, wow.
That's awesome. So tell us about the role. What does it entail? You're the director of high school relations. You've been in it now for 4 months, and we're still in a pandemic. So it's not like you've been able to do normal things like everybody else, because we're all kind of, adjusting to what this world has been like and this 2020 has been like. But tell us about the role and what it entails with Illinois as the director of high school relations, now that we got football back too, which is great.
Look, as soon as they let us, let our coaches travel, that'll be real great. But for me, it's pretty much a key piece to the recruiting program. So my right hand is my director of recruiting, left hand is director of player personnel. So work hand in hand with both of them, and that's the best part. I like to say it's kind of a bit of on-campus recruiting as well. It's kind of like when the guys do come, the recruits do come on campus, first person that they meet, speak to the parents, moms, dads, different things like that. But like I said, it's pretty much just that recruiting role, that recruiting piece. Bring in high school coaches of my own connections, make new connections within our state. And like I said, it's all about relationships again with this.
Do you feel like you're in your sweet spot, Ashton?
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. I feel like this is right. This is where I'm supposed to be. Or at Illinois, this is where I'm supposed to be in this position. I'm just good with people, and the key thing to it again is hearing someone's voice on the phone or on Zoom, but them being able to relate to you. That's the best part.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me ask you about being a pioneer, and I'll use that word. You don't have to use it, but you are the first ever female staff member in the history of the Illini football program under Coach Lovie Smith. So I don't even know if you knew that or if he said that to you, but what do you think when I say that and when you hear that, hey, you're the first female staff member, this could open up doors for so many other females going down the road. What does that make you feel?
Well, one, I never knew I was going to be making history. Coach Smith never said it. Didn't say one word. He told me about the position, gave me the title, told me the description, kind of what his goal it was or is for the program and what's to come next. But that was it. It was never like, hey, Ashton, you're making history. This, and this comes with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, again, God comes God puts you where he wants you to be and knows you're equipped and knows you're ready. So I had to come in, head first or feet first and straight into it. I think as a pioneer, it's kind of surreal saying that. You know what I mean? I don't know if it sounds right coming out of my mouth quite yet, but I love the fact that I'm able to open more doors or break down more barriers for women across the globe, whether that's in football or whether that's not in football, just in sport, in the business of sports. That's the best part.
Who are some of the female maybe mentors of yours or people that you've looked up to and saw that have been an encouragement for you as somebody will now look to you and say, you're an encouragement to me, Ashton?
Oh, look, I don't want to name names because then, I have a couple call me like, hey, I saw your interview with Jason. I'm not with it. But I just have to say it takes a village.
Yeah.
It definitely takes a village. I got a lot of, I'd say, women in football that are my mentors that I look up to. And there's a couple that are close to me in age, and I look up to them. So I don't unnecessarily think it's an age thing. I kind of think it's just kind of the mindset and kind of where they're going in their own goals. So kind of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. That's the best part.
Tell me about your daily discipline, some of the things that you do now to stay focused, maybe just as a person, but even as a follower of Christ, like the spiritual disciplines, the things that you need to do on a daily basis to make sure I'm ready to go for the day. What does Ashton Washington kind of implement into her journey to make sure that she's on par with where God wants her to be?
So I'm really big on sticky notes. I know a lot of the people out there are listening, but if you could see it, I love sticky notes. I put sticky notes everywhere with quotes. I'll read one right now to you.
Yeah.
So this one says, success is what you accomplish. It's being in a position to do what you like, do what you do well, and pursue the things that are important to you. But it's the little things. Of course, pray every day, but affirmations, quotes, those tie into my prayers. I know the big word now is manifesting. That plays a part in my everyday role or everyday to-do list or my everyday, process.
What's this year been like for you? Not just from an opportunity perspective, right? Having to have this great opportunity to go to Illinois, but with all of the social justice and, the divided country that we're living in, a pandemic that has caused all of us to hit pause on life for some time, if not longer. A lot of people are going through some difficult times right now. What's this been like personally for you to see and to go through?
Well, I started the pandemic off. I lost my job. I lost my job in March with the XFL.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in sports right now that are still in that position. So I'm very honored and very blessed to be in this position at the University of Illinois because, like I said, being in sports, it's not easy. Mm-hmm. And so I think another thing, that kind of goes into that was the pandemic has taught me a lot learning-wise. And again, patience turns into play. So, patience is when you're supposed to be mad, but you choose to understand. And so the pandemic is making a lot of us choose to understand what's really going on. And then, social injustice happening, us seeing different backgrounds of everybody or trying to put lenses on to see from their sides. I think it's just been a year that we never knew we needed. I think that's the best way to put it. We never knew we needed this year. And it's changing a lot of things. And I guess you could say it plays a part again in this position. Women in football. It's trending now. You see it a lot. NFL scouts, NFL coaches. college positions in the football department. I just love it. I love it. It's a revolution. It's beautiful.
Well, I think too, when you think of 2020, somebody said, when you start working out, right, and you first start working out and lifting weights, that pain that you feel, that soreness the next couple of days is real, right? Sometimes it's a week or two, but it starts to get, your muscles start to activate and it starts to be more tolerable, I guess, or in a way where you have a flow to it. And somebody compared that to like 2020, and they said, listen, this whole year has been that soreness that we have to go through in order to build up this muscle to get to where we want to be going forward. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. And I think, okay, I'll say this. I was in DC and, seeing the fence put out all the way in front of the White House and seeing, I guess you could say the best word for it is millennials. So seeing young people out there protesting all night long. It had to be almost 10, almost 11 there, but protesting all night long, camping out, working towards change. It's going to take our generation or this generation to keep that going, especially for our kids. So at this point, we're fighting for the next generations and the next generations after that. Do we want to stay in the same mindset, or do we want to change it up and make it different? And say we're making it different, but also put some action behind it.
It's well said. She is Ashton Washington from Illinois, the Director of High School Relations and the first ever female staff member in the history of the Illini football program under head coach Lovie Smith. Last question, Ashton. We asked this to all of our guests here on Sports Spectrum. Today, 2020, right now, what is the Lord teaching you? You've said patience. We talked about a few things here, but I feel like God teaches us something new every day in some ways. So right now, with your time with him, whether it's in the Word or some of those notes and quotes and different things that you've been reading and posting, what's the Lord showing you and teaching you today?
See all the little signs that I'm sending to you each day and continue to add them up, and it'll all make sense. That's what I've been learning. So each day I've noticed something small, and I'm like, that was supposed to happen. That was positive. That was God. God is with me every day. And I just see it adding and adding and adding.
That's really great. Ashton Washington, this has been a fun conversation. Congratulations on your new position. We'll be watching Illinois with Big Ten football back. We're so happy. And all the best to you in your new role. And keep chugging along. Thanks for joining us.
I got you. Thank you so much for having me.
And many thanks to Ashton Washington for joining us here today on Sports Spectrum. She's doing great things, just starting out in her career, and it'll be fun to watch her going forward as the Director of High School Relations with Illinois football. Thanks to Ashton for joining us here today on the show. We also thank our sponsors, IJM, the International Justice Mission. You can check them out at ijm.org/TF to become a Freedom Partner today. And we also thank you for listening. Check us out over at sportsspectrum.com and then tune in next time right here on Sports Spectrum. We do hope you all have a great rest of your day, and please stay safe.